jury trials with a 99.74% conviction rate. They are also subject to imprisonment without charge or trial under administrative detention. There are currently over 450 Palestinians jailed under administrative detention orders, including dozens of minors in the past few years. Fact 6. The illegal Zionist settlement of Halamish and its armed settlers have repeatedly attacked the village of Nabi Saleh and have confiscated its well and water spring. The village itself has faced continuous land confiscation and home demolitions at the hands of the Israeli occupation forces. The settlement receives 24/7 access to water service, while Nabi Saleh has only 12 hours of running water each week.
Ahed Tamimi, Ahed's father, has been detained at least 11 times by Israeli authorities and has spent over 3 years in prison without charge or trial. Fact 8. Dozens of residents in Nabi Saleh have been arrested and imprisoned by military courts for seeking to protect their ancestral lands from confiscation and destruction.
Fact 9. Ahed's hometown of Nabi Saleh has been continuously raided by Israel Defense Forces for the last 3 months. Fact 10. Ahed's cousin, 17-year-old Ahed Tamimi, was shot at close range by Israeli soldiers during the raid this past Wednesday, marking him the first Palestinian killed in 2018.
Intifada! Intifada! Lord, Lord, the Intifada! Free, free Palestine! Lord, Lord, Palestine!
We want to send a message to the Tamimi family that all people of the world with a conscience are on their side.
We are here to destroy the Zionist story that is made up of lies and evil. Because Palestinians, by continuing to exist, continue to resist.
That's right.
They have squeezed and confined the people of Palestine to the point where there is no fear. The judge in the illegal Israeli court asked Ahed Tamimi, how did she slap that Israeli soldier? And how did she answer? She said, take these cuffs off and I'll show you.
That's right.
There are people walking around this train station and walking in your community, believing, really believing that none of this affects them and that it has nothing to do with them. We're here today because we know that it is not true. When you speak to Palestinians, you ask them, what can I do from here? How can I help the resistance? And they tell you, we do not need you to liberate us. We can do that for ourselves. We need you to tell the story. We need you to spread the truth. We need you to go to your schools, go to your jobs, go on your social media, and share what's really happening.
As the Filipino also face heightened militarization, forced migration, and displacement from our ancestral lands, we demand the release of Ahed Tamimi and release of all political Palestinian prisoners. Time and time again, we see women and children bear the brunt from military occupation. Time and time again, we continue to see families being displaced by the military bombings, continued forced migration of our people. Time and time again, we continue to see endless human rights violations imposed upon the Palestinian and Filipino political prisoners. We must continue to link arms, not let our comrades' sacrifices die in vain. And when we see U.S. government continue to make budget cuts of our basic rights, we the people must rise up. We must continue to defend and resist the imperialist powers, our basic human rights and dignity, and the right to return to our ancestral lands. From Palestine to the Philippines, stop the U.S.
generations of Palestinian freedom fighters. Isn't that true? She doesn't stand alone. And the Zionist state of Israel again and again has targeted children, arrested, beaten, and killed Palestinian children. Isn't that the truth?
Yes.
When we call for freedom and stop the arrest, the torture, the detainment of Palestinian children and free Palestine, this is a message that resonates around the world. Today, every arrest, every tank, every bullet, every gun would not be possible without also generations, decades of support from U.S. imperialism. That is really the target. And we have to remember who's responsible. Yes, the Zionist forces in Israel today, but Wall Street and the Pentagon, because that's who arms the Zionist state of Israel. That's who's responsible for the funding, the diplomatic, the political support, millions and millions of dollars every day that go to maintain this settler state built on racism, built on apartheid. But that resistance has never ended. And it inspires people all over the world that even under lockdown, mass arrests and torture, it's possible from one generation to the next to resist, to stand strong, to fight back. And Ahed Tamimi is certainly an example of that kind of resistance, that heroic level of resistance of herself, her family, her community, and all of Palestine. We're up against U.S. corporate power. That's who relies on the U.S. war machine, and that's who shuts down Ahed Tamimi's Facebook account. Isn't that censorship? It's one more effort to silence this movement. So when we're here today in Grand Central Station, we're refusing to be silent. And we're here to stand with Palestinian resistance and the resistance of all people around the world.
There are people around us that have probably stopped on their way home just to check this out. So it's important that we all speak to everyone that we know, our families, our friends, so that this truth of Israel's crimes against humanity is taken and applied on every level, whether it's local, whether it's personal, whether it's in your job and in your homes, whether it's in your local governments or your state governments or national governments. We have collaboration between the United States and Israel at every single level. So they've made it really easy for us to see where they are and to target this collaboration that they've began for a very long time. I wanted to read a little bit of a statement that a few organizations drafted. And just to remind everybody about Ahed, Ahed is a 16-year-old who is just a child. Yes, she is our hero, but she is a child at the end of the day, and she does have her own hopes and dreams. She does not want to be in jail, but she has no choice but to resist. And because of her resistance, she is targeted. So we have to remember that she is just a child like all the other children in Israel's dungeons, suffering, who just want to live their lives. Ahed is one of 311 Palestinian child prisoners in Israeli jails as of November 2017. Israeli occupation forces regularly abduct, arrest, and abuse Palestinian children and torture them while in custody. On the evening of December 10th, 17-year-old Abdel Khalik Burnat, son of activist Ahed Burnat, and two of his friends, Hamza and Malik, were abducted by occupation forces while they were out getting pizza. Shame. And just days prior, on December 7th, a photo of 16-year-old Fawzi al-Juhaidi went viral, in which he is seen blindfolded and handcuffed, surrounded by nearly 20 occupation forces. He now faces charges of throwing stones at Israeli soldiers in military court. There are just some of the 450 Palestinians who've been abducted by Israeli forces since the U.S. administration under Trump recognized Palestinian Al-Quds as the capital of the settler colonial state of Israel. The arrest of Ahed Tamimi is not an isolated incident, but rather follows suit with Israel's policies and increased attacks on Palestinians since Trump's announcement on Jerusalem. As Palestinians continue to mobilize in light of this decision, and for all issues that occur as a result of it, it is imperative that the international community condemns all efforts by Israel to stifle Palestinian resistance. Israel's attempts to silence and instill fear in Palestinian youth must be met with outrage, while extending full support to targeted Palestinians so they are not demoralized. We stand against the imprisonment of a population living under occupation, and especially the imprisonment of children. We believe all occupied people have the right to resist their occupiers by all means necessary. We stand by the Tamimi family as they fight for Ahed and Nariman's freedom and salute their struggle in the firm resistance against Zionist aggression. We are calling for individuals and groups to show solidarity by signing on to statements, distributing them amongst your networks, and also flooding your social media with the hashtag #FreeAhedTamimi. You can also change your individual or group profile photo on social media and include a link to statements about Ahed Tamimi. You can share a picture of yourself or your organization with a sign that shows support for Ahed Tamimi and her family. And you can also organize more actions or events. U.S. residents can call their local representatives and encourage them to sponsor the No Way to Treat a Child campaign and HR 4391, the Promoting Human Rights by Ending Israeli Military Detention of Palestinian Children Act, as well as urge them to demand the release of the Tamimi family and all Palestinian political prisoners.
Women lead the resistance! Women! They go out every week and lead the resistance! And there is one reason why Israel has it out so badly for Ahed Tamimi. Ahed refuses to bow down to their occupation. She refuses to cooperate with the occupation. Since her arrest over 2 weeks ago, Ahed has not spoken one word during interrogation. This is why Israel is so angry at her. I spoke with Ahed's father recently after her last court hearing, and he said to me, they're really out to get her. And he said also, my daughter is strong. She is strong and I am proud of her. But she needs us out here to give her support. She can't do this alone. Ahed is 16 years old and she is facing a massive number of years in prison. And I want to be really clear here. Ahed is a leader. The criminal is Israel. Ahed is a leader. Israel is the criminal.
On behalf of Black for Palestine, I'd like to offer our unconditional solidarity with Ahed Tamimi, the Tamimi family, and all Palestinians that are currently resisting inside Zionist prisons. We understand as inheritance of the Black freedom struggle that Israel utilizes imprisonment to silence or to attempt to silence and disempower Palestinians who are rightfully fighting for their rights on their land. And just we support the liberation of our political prisoners here, we support the liberation of all political prisoners in Palestine.